Hey everybody, Craig Tominini here, founder and CEO of ASKCRAIGTEE and your host for the ASKCRAIGTEE podcast show. We're glad that you're here with us. Before we jump into our topic today, just want to remind you, if you're not already a subscriber on our YouTube channel and following our Facebook page, please go there, subscribe, like, smash the bell so that you get notifications when our new videos come out and you don't miss any of the value that we are trying to add. And a reminder, our mission here at ASKCRAIGTEE is to educate, equip, and empower business owners to scale their business through the transference of knowledge. And today, we are following up our 4-part series for marketing, digital marketing in particular. And if you haven't seen that, we'll throw a card somewhere up here so you can go check out those 4 episodes as well. Today, we're going to talk about something that I think is, kind of fun, really. You know, I think back a lot. You know, I'm going to be 52 years old in April as of the time of this recording. And it was proposed to me that we should talk about the evolution of technology, if you will. And so did a little research and put together a just kind of 6 real big milestones that we kind of broke down in terms of decades and just really wanted to talk through. So just to kind of set the stage, what we're looking at is, you know, if you're a guy like me of a certain age, you know, you remember times where you actually, when the phone rang, it was attached to the wall and it had a big, long, stretchy cord, hopefully, that you could walk over and maybe sit down at the kitchen table or on the couch and you could have that phone call. And I remember, you know, funny stories like I would be on the phone with a girl or something, right? And my mother would pick up the phone in the other part of the house and it would be like,
honey, can you go take out the trash?
You know, and I'm like, Mom, I'm on the phone with the girl, you know? So those kinds of things were possible because of the technology we had back then. The telephone stuck on the wall, crazy, right? And now, you know, in 2024, everybody carries their phone around within a foot or so. They have their phone able to be pulled out of a pocket and make a phone call, which is just mind-blowing. And it's just like, that's the spectrum, right? It's like phone on a wall, phone in my hand, in my pocket. Crazy. That's what we're going to talk about today. So there's a lot of areas that we can kind of dig into, but I thought what would be cool is if we were to kind of correlate the technology as if it was almost like literally how we grew up, right? So like, I look at, you know, as far back as the 1960s, you know, when we were babies, right? Some of us were babies, some of you are still babies, but, you know, technology, it was really all about the company, right? The corporations, they had the technology, whatever the technology was. There was a focus at that point in implementing technology because they were focused on customer satisfaction. They were trying to increase customer service experiences. Then if you jump to the 1970s, we're still children, right? In fact, I was born in 1972, so there's my age check. But at that point, technology was more for the academics of the world. It wasn't really something that was consumed by the general public or even experienced unless you were, like I said, in the 60s, you know, that customer experience kind of a feel. But it was a greater focus on margins and revenues, right? Companies started to go, okay, I can use technology and I can figure out how customers are, you know, what their concerns are, and then really starting to get into this idea, I think, in the 70s of you heard of a monopoly, right? Where one company, you know, kind of dominates a market, Google, you know, another company that, you know, dominates something like, you know, ChatGPT now, OpenAI, right? Like there's all these ideas of one company kind of owning it all, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, right? Like all of those things are monopolies. And in the 70s, that kind of mentality really set in because the access to this technology was really reserved for those that were either in big business or in academia. Then you jump forward to another decade, the 80s, my favorite generation. My wife and I are 80s babies. We're still children, but we can pout and we can get what we want, right? That's kind of like the 80s, if I were to summarize it. But technology starts to invade the home, right? It starts to change behavior. And this is really key. We'll probably do another segment on this whole thing where how does technology impact behavior, right? We talk a lot about as parents, you know, limiting screen time and, you know, how many people are getting chiropractic issues because they're hunched over playing, you know, some Diamond Smash game or whatever. I don't even know what they are because I don't play those games, but, you know, some game that is causing you to have bad posture. In the 80s, that's kind of where this started to happen. People started becoming more concerned about company practices and lack of customer satisfaction. So just 20 years, people, now I don't care about customer satisfaction so much, but communications has become a focus, right? It's improved, and it helps with some things like some customer satisfaction, but in general, it's really starting to permeate its way into our households. It's starting to affect the way that we interact with people, and we'll come back to that here very shortly. The 90s, everybody loves the 90s. Grunge rock, plaid flannel shirts, Nirvana, right? Everybody loves the 90s. But like teenagers, which is what we would have been at this point, now we have some control, but we don't know exactly what to do with it. So we're kind of getting surrounded by technology. It's starting to become more and more readily available, but we're not really sure, how it should affect us. Here's another example, because we're in the 90s. I think it's a good stopping point. Think about things like broadcast media, right? We used to all watch things on a TV. Now we watch things on our phone or on our devices or on our computers. Here's another one. Back in the late 80s, we were still pushing. I remember I worked at a very large retail big box company. I won't say their name because of, copyrights and all that. But I worked there, and we used to push VCRs, right? VHS recorders, VCRs, video, I don't even know what it stands for anymore, video compact recorder or something like that. But you could put this big tape into a machine, and it would play the contents that were on the tape. And then when it was done, the big feature, the big technology advancement was auto rewind. When you were done with the movie, they would rewind the movie so that when you pulled the movie out again and stuck it in the VCR, it was ready to play, because isn't instant gratification everything when it comes to technology, right? And to go forward now, like I said, we're watching things in a streaming capacity. We're using digital media. Just like this podcast, you're watching it streaming somewhere on a platform. So think of the evolution that has occurred in just a short period of time in terms of media. Then we jump into the 2000s. Oh, the 2000s. We're growing up. We're feeling pretty cool about it too, right? So 2000, I'm like 30 something, and went through a whole series of life. And technology is starting to enable global communications, at least regional, right? But in national, but really global communication starts to become a thing. Thinking of the cell phone, I remember when I was it was probably in the late 80s, I carried around a little square thing. It's about the size of the microphone that's recording this podcast right now, and we used to clip it on our pants. It was called a pager or a beeper. If you were really cool, and I'm from Massachusetts, you called it a beepa. It was B-E-E-P-A-H, beepa. So I carried a beeper around, and I thought I was the cat's meow, the bee's knees, right? But now in the 2000s, fast forward, everybody's carrying around their communication device in their pocket, and they're able to call people pretty much all over the world at this point, right? So 2000s was a great divide when it came to communications, but communications wasn't just limited to phones and beepers and CB radios and things like that. Communications, this is really where social media started to enter into the picture, right? And if we go back to the 80s for a second, that's where the onset of the internet was created. I think it was 84 or 86, fact checker, I don't know, we'll put it up there. But somewhere around that point, the internet made a transition from what used to be called the ARPANET, which was the government's usage of news groups and a way for them to communicate kind of on the black ops side. And so they made it available to all of us. And now fast forward to 2000, and we start talking about things like communication, and you have this idea of social media, right? How do we become more social with people? How do we interact with people, right? It's about seeing somebody's face and their relationship status and their kids and the food that they eat and all the things that you guys all do, that I do as well. So that's in the 2000s. This starts to happen. Things like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and all of the things that are coming out. MySpace. Oh my gosh, MySpace. I mean, when did MySpace actually happen? I think that was in the early 2000s. It was designed for musicians, and then everybody screwed it up, and it became this big social media platform that everybody loves to hate. I still have a MySpace account. I'll put the link down below. You can click on it. I don't think it's really up to date, but you can go check it out. And then we get into this 2010. This is our last kind of decade grouping, if you will. Technology starts to become fully integrated into our daily lives. I like to use the word intrusive into our daily lives, really, because did you really have a choice how technology was going to start to impact you in 2010? We start to live a more full life, but in a digital sense, right? And I talked before in a previous episode about this word phygital, right? It's the combination of the digital and the physical world. And this is really where we start to see that in 2010. Social businesses are, starting to evolve. Companies are becoming more and more aware that they have to figure out how to engage customers through a digital platform. And, that kind of leads us into where we're at now. We're in the 2020s, right? So it's 2024 as of the time of this recording, just in case anybody happens to pull this out of a time capsule somewhere in the year 3030 and says, wow, they were so evolved, and they're doing a video on, the evolution of technology the next 100 years, right? We'll be part of that. Great. So 2020, here we are, and really a lot hasn't changed in terms of the how. Social media is still very much a proponent of, business marketing, communications. Like I said, we're still carrying phones around. I kind of miss the beeper. Personally, I think it'd be kind of cool to get beepers back. I mean, I think you can still get a beeper, but no one really uses beepers anymore. I don't know. But here we are in 2024 having a very similar conversation to the 2010s, except now we have things that are really starting to push the behavioral boundaries, things like AI, and it's really forcing the narrative to be more about, ethics, right? It's starting to have more conversation around integrity, right? Because you can acquire customers through a certain tool or a platform doesn't mean that it's ethical and that you should do it, right? So, that's kind of what I wanted to go over with you guys today, So from compact discs and cassette players to VHS, video recorders, to streaming audio, streaming video, to how we interact and how technology affects our behavior, it affects our lives. Just wanted to kind of take a little deviation, still talk about technology, but really just challenge you to think about how has technology affected your life? When were you born? What was going on when you were born? Did I talk about one of the things that was happening? How has that changed for you? How are you incorporating it into your business? Is technology a consideration in your business? If it's not, maybe it should be. I don't know. But that's what we have for you guys today. Thanks for tuning in as always. My name is Craig Tomanini. I'm the founder and CEO of AskCRAIGTEE Incorporated and the host of the AskCRAIGTEE podcast show. And like always, please go subscribe on our YouTube channel. And join us back here every single Friday, 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on the AskCRAIGTEE channel, on Facebook, or on our YouTube channel. Have a great day.